Okay, we are ready to go. Welcome to our training session about avoiding building while flying, developing your personal circle before, during, and after your political campaign. I'm Christy Pagan, and I'm joined here by my colleague, Rachel, who will help moderate our session this afternoon. And we're so excited that you're able to join us. So hopefully we'll get a good training, good skill building out of this session. So first, I would love to learn more about you. In the chat, if you could actually say your name and where you're from to give us some idea of where folks are viewing, calling in from. Hello.
So I'll get us started. So I'm from Virginia girl here. Christy is in Michigan. Other folks on the line, East Coast, West Coast. Where are folks?
Yeah, we're so excited to be a part of this national conference for Netroots Nation.
Texas. We got folks from Texas, Christy. Hello,
awesome.
Clayton.
Awesome.
We have New York City, Jessica, Northern Canada. Hello from DC. So welcome, folks.
Welcome, everyone. Yes, greetings from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Go Blue. I'm Christy Pagan. Just wanted to introduce myself quickly before we dive deep into our skill building training about how you actually build your personal network, what you can do before you decide to run for office, and a few tips about when you are running, what you can do to expand your personal network. So excited that everyone's able to join us today, and let's get started. So just first, a little bit about myself. Christy Pagan. I ran and won a seat to the Michigan House of Representatives in 2014, where I was able to defeat 2 Democratic challengers as well as a Republican candidate head-to-head, both in competitive elections for my primary and my general election. I ended up defeating my Republican opponent by 10 points in the 14th cycle, when our Republican governor, Rick Snyder, won my district that same night. After I was elected, I was laser focused on making sure that we were electing more progressive candidates up and down the ballot. So I was able to recruit, train, support, and endorse candidates for Congress, state Senate, our neighboring state house districts, our county commission seat, our township supervisor and board seats, and our local school board. And let me tell you, of all those elected positions that I just listed, when I was elected, every single one of them was represented by a Republican. By the end of my term, 6 years later, I was able to win consecutive re-election. In Michigan, we have term limits, and was able to serve my full 6 years in the Michigan House. Not one Republican was left standing within a 20-mile radius of my district. So it was through hard work, recruitment, training, and support that we were able to flip every single seat from Congress on down. And then finally now, after I've been turned out of office since last December, I spend my time helping those who want to run for office, good progressive candidates, with the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. So welcome to our training. So with that, we are going to talk about a few things, specific tips, tools, strategies in place to build your personal network, how to keep it organized, and make sure that you are set up for success for when you actually decide to run for office, and that you have the basic foundation in place before you actually launch your campaign and start gaining momentum and hopefully set yourself on the path to victory. So with that, I just wanted to provide some feedback for this training. Please use the chat if you have any questions or comments as I'm presenting. Rachel is here to kind of help facilitate that. I'm happy to make this interactive. In fact, I think trainings are better when they're more interactive and participants provide feedback and questions as we're going, because this session is about helping you make sure that you're organized and that you have the tools in place so that when you do decide to run for office and or you're helping a candidate that you support and believe in, that they have the basic foundations to run and win. So first of all, organization is 100% the key to success. How many of you have heard that organized people and organized money equals power? And that's what we are trying to achieve as progressives, not only winning our campaigns, but making sure that we have a positive influence in our public policy making, as well as leadership in our community. So having a strong organization in the very beginning is absolutely essential. And what I mean by this is we are talking about your personal network, where those folks are going to come from, how we keep them organized, and then how we call upon our friends, families, maybe even long lost relatives or acquaintances to be engaged in our campaign, but also just be genuine and authentic about how we do intentional relationship building. So my first point is having a master contact list that is just around you. So we start by exporting your personal cell phone list. Easy to Google how to do that, as well as your personal email contacts. Anybody using Gmail, it was super easy, as well as other email platforms. Just exporting all of your personal contacts into one spreadsheet will help begin the organizational process. Next, we want to make sure that basically we are doing an extensive brain dump of everyone that you know and have been connected to professionally and on a friend basis or acquaintance basis. So exporting your LinkedIn connections is a great tool. LinkedIn makes it super easy to export your connections there. We want to make sure we're assembling or keeping track of any kind of lists that we're building, just, as when we're celebrating different things like somebody's baby shower or wedding list and a holiday card list. It's something I'll address later in the training, but making sure that we have these kind of internal family lists, if you will, organized in a way where you can have a system in place to ask for support later. And then, let's see, social media contacts. Facebook, there is a way to export your Facebook friends. They maybe have changed some rules on that. So just usually Google or YouTube, you can figure out how to export some of your personal lists in this way and keep it organized. And then finally, make a list of organizations you belong to and who you know in those organizations. So one of the first things that I recommend candidates do is write a life bio. If I'm coaching a candidate on how to run for office and begin their campaign and get their campaign up and off the ground, asking for that personal life story, that bio from the day you were born to today, and every school you attended, organizations you've been a part of, where you've worked, all of that can start to give you some good ideas of where your personal circle lies, and maybe will jog your memory on different areas of your life in the past that you can now tap into as you begin to build a strong foundation for an eventual announcement for a candidacy for actually running for office. So here's just a simple way to organize your personal list. Now, this is a Google spreadsheet. Everybody potentially has access to this. It's a free, software that we can use. You can actually purchase different CRMs and databases to help organize this. But for the most part, when we're first starting, this is all I'm recommending, is just a basic spreadsheet of somebody's first name, last name, some personal information. Here I put, if they have kids or dogs, what are their names, address, city, state, zip, like actually having somebody's actual physical address, their email, their cell phone, their birthday, if possible. And then notes on how you as a candidate or somebody you're helping is actually related to them in a professional setting or a friendship, or just how you know them. So here are some examples, like went to high school with this person. We serve on the arts prize board together, our arts council together. We volunteer at our local domestic violence shelter together. They're a part of our local Democratic club. So just providing some references and context of like how you know that person is actually really helpful as you continue to build out your personal circle when running for office. So I even put on here, attended the same Netroots Nation training. So be sure to use the app to connect with folks. And, that's a great list on there, especially to start building those authentic relationships. So the big picture. So once we kind of have our strong foundation of people we already know, right? We want to be able to develop more personal connections with people and expand our personal network. So we want to develop an outreach plan, not only to engage and update and keep folks who we already know updated about either our what's happening in our life, but also trying to engage folks of letting us know what's happening in their life, right? So it's kind of relationship building, as you know, is a two-way street. So we want to make sure that this is coming from an organic place, but also with some strategy behind it. So developing an outreach plan is great once you have that solid foundation of like who is actually currently in your network and what is our plan to expand your network. So first, how and when will you contact your personal network? Some examples would include monthly email updates from you. What's going on in your life? Do you have a job change or an exciting announcement of something happening? Just sharing something personal would be good. Annual holiday card or a New Year's card, Happy New Year, to your personal list. Basically, we want specific touch points to make sure that these people remember you, right? Especially if you're trying to engage somebody you went to kindergarten with, right? So we have to think about the long-term strategy. And when you actually are launching your campaign for political office, you want to make sure that you are able to reach everyone you've ever met in your entire life. Like that is a huge goal. And the more we can systematize it, organize it, and keep folks updated before we actually launch our campaign, the more successful your campaign will be, because it won't be the first touch you're doing to your own personal network. Because the last thing I want you to do is, have you call somebody out of the blue who doesn't remember you or have no idea what you've been doing or working on, and then you're like asking them for money for your campaign. You're going to have so much more success when you actually try to keep folks updated that are currently in your personal circle. So other ideas, of course, calling people, texting people, checking in with folks, social media posts, just being intentional about any updates that you are sharing and how that creates your personal narrative, and that you are actually watching for other people's updates on social media. And all this is tied back into relationship building, right? We want to be, just really intentional about our relationship building, tedious with our sleuthing ability, if you will. Where are the people you want to connect with? And then how do you show up at where they are? So it's definitely the main principle of meeting people where they are, trying to engage folks and grow your personal network, hopefully before you decide to run for office. So things like signing up for attending meetings and trainings, going to public events, policy town halls, catching up with people in your network, if you've run into them in the community. In fact, some of my best conversations I had when I was a candidate for office was at the grocery store, right? That you run into people and have a moment to catch up with them. One of my best conversations was at a gas station. We were both pumping gas. So, you can take advantage of these opportunities where you just see people in the community. But I do think the key point here is following up with those folks. And we'll talk a little bit about the follow-up tools. So growing and expanding your network. So really we have our current network. Everybody has at least some folks in their current network. That's your friends, families, coworker, people you volunteer with, basically people in your personal circle. But how do we expand on that? So I talked about showing up to events, making sure that you are speaking up at events you attend, especially about the issues you care about, because when you become a political candidate, I almost want people to encourage you to run and say, hey, like Christy, I know every time we go to a school board meeting, you're just talking about classroom size. You have a question about classroom size, and that's like all you talk about. So, kind of defining yourself on the issues you care about most when you are out in the community and you're trying to demonstrate your leadership ability and why you should be in an elected position and how you would lead and champion the issues that you care about, but also the issues that you believe that your community cares about. So growing and expanding your network, just networking 101 tips, asking people for business cards, definitely make sure you have your own. If you currently don't have your own, just get them printed, preferably at a union shop so that we are subscribing to our progressive values. But it can simply say your name and email and phone number. It doesn't even have to have a title. But that is a good tool to use, is just actually having printed business cards that you are using. If possible, collecting or trading business cards with other folks at in-person events and taking the opportunity to actually write on the back of the business card, where you met that person, what date you met them, how you know them, or if there's another connection you can make to them. So just quickly, even after the event, usually I did this in my car to be like, okay, I met Rachel at the Women in Wine event that was raising money for children's advocacy. And I would just write down the date and like what we talked about and the event that we were at together. So it's a good kind of tip to make sure that you can remember how you met somebody, and it provides you a way to follow up, because I would love then to follow up with Rachel and be like, in an email, I'll be like, Rachel, so great to meet you, last week even at, the children's advocacy event, what a great event it was. It was great to meet you, and just leave it at that. But it helps jog your memory if either you can write it on the back of a business card of somebody else's, or keep a running notes list in your notes app on your phone. So then you want to organize this back into your master list, right? We're always back contributing to that master list that we built out in the beginning, and that's helping us expand our network. And you want to make it a habit of networking and following up with folks weekly. Now, this is a daunting task, but the more time you set aside to do this and the more you hold yourself accountable for intentional networking, the more successful you will be in the long run, especially building your personal network out. So usually I spend every Friday morning from 9 to 10 is my follow-up time of folks I either met the previous week, or I go back to my original master list, my original folks on there, and say, hey, is there anybody I should check in with or make a call to, or just see how people are doing, especially if you see something on social media from them, or something, positive or negative, if they're celebrating birth of a child, or maybe the passing of a relative, just checking in with people, seeing how they're doing, because our work is about people, connecting with people and making sure that that we are bringing a new type of politics into our elected official space. And so we're about people-powered politics, and that means, being genuine and authentic and actually caring about the people in our personal network. So checking in with people, seeing how they're doing, especially if you can see some things that they're posting on social media, I think is extremely beneficial. So with that, grow and expand your network. So some tips here. We talked about setting aside time every week to do your follow-up and build relationships. Phone calls are the most effective way. I know a lot of folks feel like maybe people don't answer and texting is better. You just gotta kind of decide what is best for you. But the more important piece is setting aside time and making sure that you are actually going in and doing this type of relationship building, relationship maintaining, if you will, to make sure that you're constantly expanding, building, and really touching base with folks. Honestly, you will learn so much about your personal network if you do this type of outreach, and it will make you a more effective candidate and elected official once you are elected. So that's always great to have that time set aside. Be focused for short periods of time. So, we're not talking about 40 hours a week you got to spend networking, anywhere between a half hour, an hour of your time just to do your quick follow-ups, your quick check-ins, just try to be as efficient as possible. Making your calls, sending emails, sending texts, really checking in with your network. And one thing too that I always, personally enjoy, and I feel like those on the receiving end, like something that you probably would like, is making sure that you are aware of like important dates and details about somebody else. So if their kids graduating from high school, or they just got a new puppy, or these are like happy things, but if you get something, some sort of information about what is going on with somebody else's life, it's always great to follow up with them and say, like, I'm so happy that, congratulations to your son, for graduating high school, or like, excited about his future. Even just sharing in happy moments with others, I think is really a great way to make those good, genuine connections. You want to show people that you're listening to them too. So even if they're like, oh, I have a lot of family examples, but say somebody says, oh, my daughter is competing in a statewide soccer tournament next month. Is there a way for you to record, okay, in 1 month, I have to then check back in with my friend whose daughter is competing and ask them how it went. Like, we were cheering for her and hope everything went well. and just being able to have that effective follow-up, even if it's in the future too. So it's good to set in like reminders either on your calendar or in that original spreadsheet to make sure that you are just aware of what's going on in other people's lives that you care about. With that, any questions so far? I know I've been presenting for a little bit, but what questions do you have, if any, about establishing your initial network or organizing that and trying to then build upon that?
And folks, it could be a thought too, maybe. Thoughts are welcome here too. So I know Christy's shared a lot. So any thoughts or questions that you want to type into the chat?
Well, we'll keep going, but please, if there's any specific strategies or tactics that maybe you've tried and has worked great, please share those. Or if there's areas where you feel like you're struggling or it's just not working, maybe you tried some of these things, but it just didn't really work out well, we would love to hear those stories from you too. So one other way to expand your personal network, which is something that I wholeheartedly adopted before I ran for office, of course, is getting involved. Because you know that folks who, people will support you if you supported them. It's just, and it shows that you're committed to a cause, a candidate, a campaign, our progressive movement as a whole, that you're not just in it for your name on the ballot, title, or whatever may result in being an elected official. You're in it to make change, to make positive difference in your community. And one way you can show that is actually showing up to volunteer on somebody else's campaign before you decide to run, volunteering with an organization or cause you care about, making sure that you are demonstrating leadership in the community. So asking to serve on boards or get events, all those things are just great, authentic ways to get involved in your community. But it's also a great way to meet people who share your values, who share your passion about specific issues, who are bonding. Say you're on another political campaign before you decide to run. You're bonding around the challenges of running for office and the grind and how hard it can be sometimes, even though you're volunteering or potentially a staff member in a campaign. But when the time then comes for you to step up and run and put your name on the ballot, it's those folks that you've helped along the way, they're going to be first in line to help you. So, again, we want to do it in like a super genuine way. We don't want to say like, oh, I'm only doing this for this end result. We want to be able to say like, I am leading by example. I want to make this positive change in my community. And maybe it is just volunteering on a campaign or volunteering in a local nonprofit or serving on a board that, does positive work in your community. And maybe that is the best way to contribute. If we want to take it a step further, if you will, and then transition into running for office, it is that network that hopefully will go with you and carry you forward to the finish line as a political candidate. So, I volunteered on as many political campaigns as I could. Also, you are learning political strategy and actually how to run for office, how others are doing it in a somewhat low risk way because your name is currently not on the ballot. So just learning the ins and outs of a political campaign is a great experience, as well as who is actually doing the work in the community to end hunger or address the housing crisis or make sure that children are taken care of. Any of the issues that you're you potentially want to champion if you're elected, trying to figure out who are the leaders in your community, how do you get to know them, and how do you demonstrate to them like you're in it for real. Like this is something you are dedicated to, you're passionate about, and maybe you do have that goal of actually running and winning a political campaign in the future, but it's all connected, right? That we want the activists to be elected. We want the volunteer to be elected. We want everyday people to step up and run and win and be a true reflection of our elected government. So hopefully that just all comes together as you're continuing to build out your personal network. So growing and expanding your network, building upon this idea. So we would then send out thank you notes if, people were helping us, or, we had the chance to volunteer or help somebody else. You can send a thank you note out to those folks or organizations that even you helped. Like, thank you for the opportunity to volunteer at the food bank this evening. I enjoyed my time, and I think that we made a real difference. Always send out notes on birthdays and anniversaries, congratulations for baby announcements, awards, professional recognition. Sometimes you can see a lot of this on your LinkedIn connections, Facebook, kind of social media, just having a good idea of who in your personal network is achieving some success or recognition. And it's always nice to send a note to that person. I actually credit my first win for political office with handwritten notes. I would, after every week of canvassing, I would spend time and actually handwrite postcards to my voters that I spoke with at their door. And I would include a part of the conversation we had. So I would make sure that it was personalized, that I shared their views on certain issues if we did agree. Usually it was around public education because I ran in my hometown. I was a graduate of the public schools there, and it was a core component of my campaign. So, I share your views about how we can invest more in our local schools and be a voice for teachers and parents and students. So whatever conversation we had, we made sure that was all recorded. At the end of the week, I would handwrite these postcards back to voters, thanking them for their time to talk to me as a candidate, and then reiterating the message that what they cared about most and how I could be that champion for them if I could earn their support, their vote on election day. Same thing here. You can definitely see a lot of this type of activity or trying to find people, especially the recognition and awards, because you want to celebrate in other people's success and make sure that they feel good too, and that you recognize, oh my goodness, our local clerk here, he got Clerk of the Year for Michigan by running the most effective and secure election in our local community. He was recognized statewide. So, sending a note there saying, congratulations, that's a great achievement, and I want to share in that success with you. Bereavement cards as well, and holiday cards. So if someone has passed away in your personal network, or like a friend's mother-in-law passed away, you want to make sure that you're sending out some acknowledgement there as well. It's not always like happy times, but if somebody has passed away in your network, or within a friend of your network, or some sort of connection to your network, you want to make sure that you can do that outreach to the person probably suffering and not having the best experience at that point. So but holiday cards are also a great way, no matter what faith or non-faith you may have. I actually incorporate New Year's cards in my campaign or my relationship building, because I feel like it's more non-denominational or atheist, if you will, so that we can just all celebrate the new year. And that's something that I think a lot of people appreciate, that they're getting that extra touch from me as we start a whole new year of hopefully optimism and excitement and joy. Make the most of your email list, social media, and snail mail. So remember to try to send out monthly updates about you to your personal network, either by email or on social media or through the mail. Like sending postcards. Postcards are a less expensive way to reach people by mail. The postcard stamp versus a full letter stamp. But please make sure it's union printed. That's something that is important to our progressive values and something we subscribe to. So use your local print shop, a union print shop, to help with any kind of mail printing. So growing and expanding your network. So I wanted to give you a few examples of where else you can look for folks to try to meet and engage with and kind of take note of what's happening in your community. So I have this newspaper here. This is our local Ann Arbor Observer, and it's sent out once a month, which is awesome because it actually, just gives an update what's happening in the community. But just simply flipping through here, I wanted to give you a few examples. So there's a lot of personal interest stories here, right? And what we're about is actually, making sure that we are champion people in our community. And if there's personal interest stories, this is a great way to either follow up with the person who received a news hit about them, and then maybe learn more about the work that they're doing. So for example, there's an article here about someone, so the article title is "Near Collision with Motorists in September was final straw for Regina Hunter." So it's actually giving me somebody's name, right? This personal interest story. And the story here is this woman's wheelchair bound, and she was having a very difficult time navigating downtown because there was a lot of street closures and the sidewalks weren't repaired, and she almost got hit. So if you want to, champion people with disabilities or who are wheelchair bound or address ableism in your community, this would be a great person to talk to. So definitely reaching out to them. Another example here, where this is Ann Arbor, so it's a bit more progressive, but there is a story about creating peace cranes. This gentleman from First Presbyterian Church enlisted more than 700 church members to create origami peace cranes. To me, I'm like, this guy is a connector. He has 700 people he knows in the community, and he's trying to celebrate International Peace Day by creating peace cranes. I'm like, this is somebody I would probably reach out to, want to get to know, and see if that we align on our progressive values and how we could potentially work together. So even simple stories like that. This story is about David Malcolm. He grew up in the city, and this article is actually about facing racism in Ann Arbor and how he's been navigating that. And actually, there was a great point in this article saying that Malcolm organized a talk about racial profiling in the community, as well as microaggressions for long-term residents who are, people of color and Black people in our community, and just talking about their life experience. So, if we're trying to do anti-racist advocacy and tactics and learning and expanding our worldview, this would be a great person to get to know and engage with, especially if he's organizing around that, trying to embody anti-racism. Even things like here, new art gallery opening, right? We have 3 new business owners in the community. And then this paper also lists all the community events. One point I also wanted to share, besides the personal interest stories, is looking for donor lists in these newspapers and local community newsletters. So this is actually an ad, but it is an ad for Safe House, which is our local domestic violence shelter. And the ad is thanking their donors. The ad actually lists their donors, starting with VIP supporter of $1,000 or more. We have Bill and Wendy Holmes, and it just keeps going and lists those who are financially investing in domestic violence efforts, in stopping domestic violence efforts, actually investing their money into supporting our domestic violence shelter. So if I was a candidate or a prospective candidate that wanted to run on this issue, first of all, this is a donor list right here. Who are these people? Do they give to political candidates? Can we do some more research on them? Is there an upcoming event at the local domestic violence shelter where I could attend and maybe network with some of these folks? But knowing their name and their giving history already, that is actually printed in the paper, is something not to be overlooked. And it's, it's a great way to say, can you tell me like why is this something that you care about? What's the experience been like trying to address this issue in the community? And how can I be a part of the solution, hopefully as a potential elected official one day? So always look for lists, always look for, personal interest stories, try to make those connections with folks on, progressive values that we care about, especially if they're addressing kind of the bigger issues that you want to run on, you want to champion. Also, I'll also note that some of our local Democratic clubs or nonprofit organizations, they will publicly list their membership list. So let's make sure that that is organized in our initial spreadsheet. We try to make connections who those folks are. I actually went through my local Democratic club list and, direct messaged everybody saying, hey, like I want to get more involved and like would love to meet you for coffee, and, try to really build those authentic relationship by doing the outreach yourself. So growing and expanding your network. So we talked a little bit about membership lists. Do you personally belong to any organizations that publicly post their members? You ask friendly organizations to share their membership list with you. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. That's an internal thing, but it's definitely worth the ask. And then can you compile your own personal list, which we addressed in the very beginning, and how do we keep expanding on that list? Also, be sure to sign up for emails and watch what other people are sending out, either issues you care about, criminal justice reform, the reproductive health movement, what are the actual policy issues and what organizations are leading and championing those issues, what messaging are they putting out? But then also your local, like signing up for all your local elected officials newsletters, your local progressive organizations, those, that you support. How do you make sure that you're being informed and updated on their work and potential opportunities to help, right? Oftentimes there's volunteer events or community service events, or just straight up meetings that you can attend and be informed about, and then help grow your personal network. So when running for office, you want to be very strategic about how you announce your candidacy to your personal network. We have a variety of tools of how we're sharing our intentions once we decide to run and what level of office you want to run for. But really the most effective way is making a phone call to your personal network, which is why it's so important to have it be organized from the very beginning and build off of that. So phone call, most impactful, text message, email, and social media posts get less impactful. So I want to definitely encourage and stress the phone call to your initial supporters list to make sure that they're the first to know your exciting announcement that you are going to be seeking political office, and you want to also make sure what are you asking them, because it can't just be an information call like, hey, I'm going to do this. You need call to action and the specific ask. Either are you asking for financial support from the very beginning? Are you asking for them to make sure that they're getting campaign updates from you? Can they volunteer? Can they introduce you to 5 friends? Can they host a house party? You know, the list goes on and on of what your ask can be. And you will decide that as you launch your campaign. How do you take advantage of that initial contact? So when I ran for office, I really stressed a no cracks policy. And to me, that means that there needs to be a protocol in place that anybody anywhere contacting your campaign or expressing any interest in helping you is immediately followed up with. So just taking having a good idea of how people can reach you, right? So we can pretty much categorize it into, you know, email, phone, text, social media, through your website, and then who is like helping you make sure that anybody anywhere is being followed up with. Because the last thing I want is like, you know, you to lose out on a great volunteer because nobody answered their email to the campaign. Or, you know, this person really wants to give money, but nobody's calling them back. So making sure you have a no cracks policy in your campaign is extremely important, and it helps you continue to build out your relationships and make sure that you have an amazing, unstoppable organization in order to win your campaign. So I just wanted to have a few points here just for those who perhaps are either actively campaigning or are about to start campaigning. We implemented a no cracks policy by using minivan because we would voice dictate in our minivan as we were canvassing door to door about the conversation we had with the voter and actually coding them based on the issues that they cared about most. If they said, you know, I really just need the potholes fixed in our roads, like I've had 3 cracks in my windshield this year, you know, definitely roads is my issue, and we need just to fix them. And so they would be identified as a infrastructure voter or somebody who cared about the roads, and then we would be able to target that messaging back to them. And then we would use all of that data and targeting through our minivan. And I talked about the personalized postcards that I would do as a candidate once a week. And those reports were generated based on our conversations we had at the door. So this concludes our training this afternoon. Please, the Change Campaign Committee is here as a resource to you. Or any candidate you know who is running or wants to run for office, or anybody that you are personally supporting for elected office. We offer a variety of services, free 1-hour candidate trainings once a month is available. Here's my personal contact information, Christy P. at boldprogressives.org. In fact, we're having our next candidate training on Thursday, October 14th, about managing and hiring your campaign staff. If you would like to apply for an endorsement, we are offering endorsements for local, state, and federal races, which is a great way to help promote your campaign and to receive, you know, our backing as a Progressive Change Campaign Committee. And then we offer an amazing tool called Pies that will help you organize your personal circle and your personal networks. It works great with MailChimp, a free software up to 2,000 emails that you can send out. So it's an inexpensive tool that we offer our candidates to help organize and just really get folks off the ground and running in a very intentional and strategic way. So you can register for our Pies database at campaignpies.com. And with that, what questions do you have?
Folks, any thoughts or questions? I mean, or everything that Christy shared was fabulous, which it was. But any thoughts that folks would like to share? Or again, what Christy said, things that you've tried that have worked, other things that maybe haven't.
Well, we're always here as a resource to you, so please reach out. PCCC is just all about making sure that everyday people, everyday progressives run and win our political campaigns. So across the country, we are building a progressive movement and really just want to make sure that you have the tools, skills, and even just support and coaching in order to run and win your campaign.
So, Christy, we have a question from our friend Jason here. He says, no cracks policy is awesome. Thank you, Jason. What do you think about automatic email or text responses connected to an action?
Yeah, so there are a lot of tools that do the automated process. So for me, it depends on the type of scaling that you're doing. So are you just getting like so many responses? It's unmanageable and you want to implement an automated system. However, if there are simple tools you can build in, for example, things that we do in our campaign is if somebody signs up for our email list from our website, they will then receive an automated email. Thank you for signing up to receive campaign updates from us. And here are some additional ways you can help. And we'll do a volunteer link, a contribution link, and then anything else like refer a friend or here's our social media. So things like that, I really support the automated built-in because people, if you are getting any interaction with, general supporters, you want to make sure there's some automation built in. Also, there's things like, okay, we have our volunteer page on our website. If somebody signs up to volunteer, it's all coded on the back end. So I know if somebody's volunteering to want to knock doors or write postcards or make phone calls. And after they submit that, their interest on a form, they also get an automated email. Thank you so much for signing up to volunteer. This team member will be in contact with you shortly to tell you about our next phone bank or Canvas. And if you would like to contribute further, like here's a way to give online. Usually the automation is coming from the user-generated sign-up. So somebody's on your website or social media and they are clicking and engaging in the campaign, adding their email or signing up. That's probably the best automation we can do from the very beginning is providing more opportunities to stay engaged and letting folks know that we've received their sign up and that either somebody will be in contact with them shortly, and there's other ways to get involved, like making a contribution to the campaign.
Thanks for the question, Jason, and Christy. Thank you for the thoughtful response. Folks, other thoughts or questions? We do have a few more minutes, so.
Well, this has been great. Thank you, Rachel, for helping. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I know that Netroots Nation will be able to put this recording on their app, I believe, in a few days. So it's a great resource and tool for you to refer back to. And again, please, if you need any help or advice or want to make sure that that either you need some additional training on running for office, or your friends or family or those you're trying to encourage to run, we are here. The Progressive Change Campaign Committee is here as a free resource to you, so please use us. This is probably one of the best tools we have out there, is connecting a nationwide group of progressive folks to come together and help each other. So what better network than having everybody across the country come together to help each other. This training will also be recorded and put up on YouTube for reference as well. So thank you, everyone, for attending. It was a pleasure to present to you this evening, and best of luck in your future candidacy. I can't wait to see all of you elected one day.